Good afternoon, Mercy Medical Center Merced physicians. This is Cheryl Bejna, your nursing informaticist, and we are moving forward with CPOE and taking the next step by launching the discharge instructions via the electronic method. So hopefully this screen is very familiar to you. It is your provider work management screen, and we're going to click on the physician desktop. From here, we click on inpatient to get to all of our patients. And I happen to know the patient I'm going to discharge is in the telemetry floor, which is down towards the bottom. And there he is, Test Jose. Jose, our super user for CPOE. I know he helped a lot of you, and he was still around to help with this as well. I've highlighted my patient, and I'm going to go ahead and click the button that says Discharge. By clicking this button, it is a one-stop shop for the discharge routine. You'll be able to see your patient's demographics up at the top. The patient problem, which is CHF. If you wanted to edit it, you could, but he is here for CHF and there's nothing more that I want to add. And then here's the physician section. There are 3 sections that you have to fill out for the discharge. We've added the section of vaccines, so you'll know what vaccines your patient received while an inpatient at Mercy Medical Center Merced, and hope this will be good information for you to take back to the office. There are 2 more sections, one for the case manager and one for the nurses. As you can tell, this is a dynamic tool that more than one discipline uses, and in some cases more than one physician. Let's go ahead and go up to the physician section. We have 2 fields that are required, the med reconciliation and discharge orders, and it's intuitive to start with the meds, so then you know how you want to address your order. So let's go ahead and click on the edit button for med reconciliation, and it brings up my patient's home meds, which were 5, and their current inpatient medications, which there are 4. Now I can't see all 4 of those home meds, so I'm going to drag this down a little bit. It's very important for you to compare your home meds with your inpatient meds, because you're going to choose which meds they continue at home and which meds that are inpatient meds you may choose to continue at home as well. And when I look at this from this screen, I can see already in my home med section here at the top, my patient was on lisinopril 5 milligrams. And now we have, as an inpatient, lisinopril 10 milligrams. So I already know I have a decision to make. As well, at home, my patient was on Lipitor 10 milligrams, but in the hospital it was increased to 20 milligrams. So let's go ahead and drag this back up to the top and start with our home meds. You will never address the renew or cancel buttons. We're just unable to inactivate them. You'll always use either continue a med or stop a med. So my patient is on Abilify. We're definitely going to continue that. We want to continue that baby aspirin. We're going to continue the Lasix, very appropriate for a CHF patient. The Lipitor, however, I'm going to stop that. Presumably, Jose had his lipid panel drawn and he was still high. That's why we started him on 20 milligrams as an inpatient. So I'm going to click stop. And then his lisinopril, 5 milligrams, I'm going to go ahead and stop that as well. And drag down here to the bottom. And I'm going to convert the Lipitor 20 milligrams, and it brings up the modify prescription button. While we are not electronically printing prescriptions, nor are we e-faxing them, we need to complete this screen so that we can continue through the process. At some point we may be able to do that, but not today. We're going to go ahead and use the quantity button. Most patients get a prescription for 1 month, so we're going to pick a quantity of 30 and say done. I'm going to click on my lisinopril and go through the same process. I'm going to go ahead and pick a quantity of 30 and say done. All right, so I've addressed my home meds and my current inpatient meds, but I want to send my patient home on another med. I'm going to go up here to the far right hand corner and I'm going to go ahead and click New. While there are many choices here, what we want you to click on is prescriptions. And perhaps I want to send Jose home on some Xanax. We've made him a nervous wreck through this whole process. So I'm going to go ahead and use my type ahead just like I do in CPOE. I see the Xanax. I'm going to select it. And we're going to have it be QHSPRN. And click on my string just like I always would and say done. And it's going to give you a warning if you miss something. So now I'm going to go over here to my quantity and I'm going to give him 14. It's going to remind me that I need a reason and anxiety. This time it's happy. I do that so you can see that to avoid errors, we still have our alerts in there. If you're going to miss something, it's going to let you know. There's no other new meds that I want to order, so I'm just going to click Done. I'm going to click Submit, and then I'm going to get my review screen. So what it tells me is that I have chose to convert the Lipitor, I've chose to convert the lisinopril, I have a new med of the Xanax, I've discontinued the 10 milligrams of Lipitor, I've continued the Abilify, I've continued the Lasix, I've continued the baby aspirin that he was on at home, and I have discontinued the lisinopril 5 milligrams. If I approve of this, all I have to do is put in my password. If I didn't, I could hit cancel and it would take me back to the MedRec screen and I could make other adjustments. I'm going to put in my password. We're going to continue on. It's looking for an action. We're going to put in none because, as I said, currently we are not doing any e-faxing or printing out prescriptions, so I don't have a printer to associate it to. I know you're probably already thinking to yourself, wow, if I put in a new medication, I'm going to have to click on none. You will, but the importance of that is patient safety. This is going to update the patient's med reconciliation, so the next time the patient comes through the ER or as a direct admit as an inpatient, we are going to have the most accurate information. So while putting in new prescriptions, even though they don't print and you have to put in none for the action, it's very important for our med rec to be accurate. We're going to go ahead and scroll down now to our next section, which are the discharge orders. Again, I'm going to click the Add button. And this is the actual order to discharge the patient home. You can see there's various places that we might send the patient other than home, which maybe is a nursing home. We may need a home health request as well. Maybe we want to add some durable medical equipment. We can do all that from this screen. But for today, we're just going to click on Home, select, and Done. Just like with CPOE, any required fields are going to come up for me in red, and I'm going to click Required. And I'm going to discharge the patient home with, again, you can use your binoculars to look up the choices, self-care. Notice under the required core measures, throughout the patient's hospitalization, the nurses are gathering this data. By them gathering this data, it all flows over to our discharge order screen. If there was something that they missed that applied to your patient, then it would ask the physician to address it. This helps us make sure that our CHF patients are going home on an ACE inhibitor, or our MI patients are going home on a statin. But in this case, if I click OK, the nurses have collected all this information. It's going to let me go ahead and file this order right through. So I'm going to say Done. I'm going to submit this portion of the discharge and put in my password. And it brings me right back to the discharge routine. I have one thing left to do, my instructions. Click on Add. Jose's definitely not an OB patient, so I'm going to pick the general instructions and say OK. And if you currently use the FormFast instructions, you should recognize these 5 fields. To start it off, I'm just going to click on Diet, and you'll notice today's service date and time default in for you. Once I initiate the diet, over on the right-hand side, all of my choices are going to come up, and all I have to do is hit OK Next to file right through these. So Jose's CHF patient, so I want him on a low-salt diet. And I'm going to make a comment here for him that he should consider a salt substitute. I think he'll be better about sticking to his diet that way. And say, okay, activity. No restrictions for him. As a matter of fact, we want him exercising at the gym. Okay, next. I want you to notice that over here there is no drop-down arrow, but when I click on number of days for my follow-up appointment, I do have a drop-down arrow. I can click on that and there are some pre-selected time frames for you. So I want to see Jose in 7 to 10 days. I'm going to go ahead and click the down arrow, click on the date, and you can see it drops in there for me, and say OK. Next, I want him to follow up in my office. If I want to make a comment here, I can. And so maybe I have two offices. I have an Atwater office and a Merced office. And I want him to make his appointment at the Atwater office. So I'm just going to put Atwater office. And OK next. Now that I've answered those 5 fields, the system generates general discharge instructions that we've placed based on core measures. So we have our heart failure advice to weigh daily and keep a record. If they're a smoker, to call no buts, when to go to the emergency room, and if it's a surgical patient or they've had a procedure, when to seek further assistance. I'm okay with all of those. Down under special instructions, there's an arrow. If I click here, I can type in some sort of special instructions. So because Jose's got some incompetent valves in his legs, I'm going to tell him, while exercising at the gym, wear your support stockings. Have no other special instructions I want to give, so I want to submit this. It's now going to generate the patient's actual discharge instructions form that will print out by the nurses and be given to the patient. Again, it has the patient's demographics at the top. It has those instructions that we defined. Then it has the general instructions for all patients, and there are special instructions that I had put in just for Jose. If I'm satisfied with all of that, I can click Signed. If I think there may be something else that I want to add and I want to go in and actually see the patient, or perhaps the patient's family has come up, I can hit Draft and then go back and finish it later. But for the sake of today, I'm going to sign this. I'm going to put in my password. And we're done. We have completed the physician section of the discharge instructions. It will electronically send an order to the nurses, and at that point they will go in, they'll add the patient's education, do their discharge assessment, and then they will finalize the packet. Now, one thing I do want to stress with you is that if you are currently writing your new prescriptions on a physician prescription pad, you will need to do the same. These will not be interfaced to a pharmacy, nor will they print out for you. I hope this has been helpful. We will have super users available to help you during Go Live. Thank you very much.